Hey, third grade, this is part of your 7.1 lesson on measuring liquid volume. So what I have in front of me are 3 different containers. So you can see here, I might have to move my laptop a bunch of times, but these are the 3 different containers. So typically what I would say is okay, which one do you think has the greatest volume? Which one can hold the most amount of water? Do you think it's this container, this tall one, or this short one? So they're kind of all different heights and different sizes, like you can see here. Ooh, there we go. And this one, and then this one, which is filled with water right now. So I want you to take a second and I want you to think, which one of these do you think would have the greatest volume? Which one would be able to hold the most amount of water? Okay, so think about this one. And then I want you to think of your vote, okay? At your live session, your teacher will ask you which one you thought it was. So do you think it's this one, the tan one, the clear one, or the brown one? So what we're going to do is I filled this one up and we're going to use this kind of as our initial start. We're going to use this one to pour into the other ones to see which one has the greatest volume, which one has the least, and just compare them that way. So there's a couple ways you could do this. You could fill up the one that you think has the most volume and pour that into the one you think has the second greatest volume. If the water would overflow, that means that your first container you filled up has a greater volume because it didn't have, the second container didn't have enough space to hold all that water. A different scenario would be if you would pour this into your second greatest container. If it doesn't reach the top, then that means that your second container, whichever one you're pouring it into, has more volume than your first container. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to be comparing. So I filled this one up and I'm going to pour this one into this one because this is the one that I think has the second greatest volume. Just, trying it out. So I'm going to pour this into here and we're going to see it's either going to overflow or it's not, and there's going to be room left over. So that's where we are going to start. So let me move this here. And I'm going to have to do this in the sink just in case. So let me move my camera. Okay, so you should be able to see both containers. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to pour this one into the tan and we will see what happens. So here we go. So it didn't overflow. And if you look, there's actually an inch of space left from pouring this one into the tan one. So what does that tell us about the tan one? What would we say then if there was space left over? So that means that the tan container has a greater liquid volume than the clear container because this one could hold more water. So if I would pour all of this water back into the clear container, it would go all the way to the top. But with this one, when I poured the clear into here, it didn't. So that means the tan container has a greater liquid volume. Now, if I would switch it and I'd bring in my smaller one, which remember, looks can be deceiving. Sometimes the smaller ones, if they're really wide, can actually hold more water than like a tall, skinny one. So I have my shorter one here. So now I'm going to pour my water into that one. I'm going to pour it all the way to the top. And it just started to overflow, but that's because of the spout here. See how it's like dripping out of the spout? So we would be able to say that the liquid volume of this tan container and this brown container is really, really close. We would say the tan container does have a little bit of a greater liquid volume, but as far as not having the spout and stopping the water from coming out, we could say they're almost the same. So that means that the tan and the brown container have a greater liquid volume than the clear container. So again, remember, looks can be very deceiving when we're talking about liquid volume. So what you'll be doing with your teacher and things like that is you'll be examining liquid volume through liters and milliliters and talking about, how those relate to one another and just trying to figure out ways that you could solve for liquid volume. So how we did it is we kind of started with the container we thought was the largest. Then we picked our container that we thought was the second largest, and we compared those by pouring them into each other. And then we pulled the brown container, which I can pour back into the clear one, but I lost a lot of water because of the spout coming out. But you can see when I poured it back in, it's almost back up to the top. This was probably the amount of water that we lost going from the tan to the brown. So very similar volumes for all of the containers, but they are still a little different. So I hope you guys had fun doing a little bit of a different video than our normal math.